What's the fastest way to raise your vibration? And how do you avoid creating karma you'll have to pay for later? This chapter reveals a surefire way of moving through chaos or setbacks that immediately shifts your frequency, clears karmic buildup in real time, and keeps you from spiraling into patterns that can drag people down. Chapter 2: Lighting the Fuse. For me, it comes down to one thing, one magical way of looking at things that changes everything and lifts your vibration. It's something that never fails and it just works. What is it? You laugh. Yes, laugh. You laugh at sleeping in and missing the train, or that the car is not starting again, and even though it's raining and you just had it fixed. You laugh at tripping and bruising your tailbone because you didn't break something at least. Murphy's Law is funny. This is about perceiving the irony in things. It's about things turning out the opposite of how you planned. You know what happens when we make plans, right? God laughs. The universe generally has other things in store for us. In fact, the universe and our spiritual helpers have a great sense of humor. Train yourself to see irony. Irony is funny. The alternative is being pissed off or angry or stressed, and there goes your vibration. Way down. This vibration brings more bad things to you. So laugh instead, damn it, and mean it. It's been laughter for me my whole life. Why? Because I want to lighten the load on not just myself, but on others. Always. How do I do that? Use humor as best I can. Sometimes I'm not as funny as I want to be, but I'm always trying. I try to lighten whatever it is. If I'm in a car and I've just flown off the road and down a hill, which happened to me, as soon as you come out of the shock, you make a joke or funny comment. It's because you're thinking about the other person's experience and the vibration you're transmitting. Enter Jane. Jane says, "Okay, wait. You have taken a quantum leap that most people haven't. So, I want to ask you, how did you get to the point of caring so much about other people without being a people pleaser? Because that's a key point. Most people can't do that, and we can't make the assumption that it's an easy thing for people to do. I say, that's part of the inner alchemy. Let's go back to examining. I've slid down a hill, and this happened to me when I first moved to Maryland with my then husband and the kids. It was a snowy Sunday morning, and I was off to meet them for holiday photos. I was probably rushing or not paying complete attention, and as I came out of a hairpin turn, I suddenly find myself flying over black ice. I went into a 360-degree spin, and my car flew down an embankment sideways, landing exactly between two tall pine trees. There was not an inch to spare on either side. I slid between them like a letter into an envelope, an exact fit. So, first is silent shock. Then a man appears out of nowhere and raps on my window asking, "Are you okay?" He adds as I roll down the window, "Because a Jeep with 4 teenagers went down that same hill a few months ago, and 3 of the boys died." I nodded to indicate that I was okay and said, "But something terrible happened." I looked at the dashboard to indicate I spilled my coffee. Because the coffee I had prepared for myself that morning had splashed all over the dashboard and messed up my car. For some reason, I found that hilarious. Maybe I didn't want to think about those poor kids and what could have happened to me. I know I'll be more conscious of turns and black ice in the future, but at a moment like this, you need to laugh. And that's because I wanted to put the man at ease. I was thinking of him. Afterwards, you have to examine it. Why did I fly down that hill? Perhaps that was my grandmother or one of my guides saying, "Lainey, you've got to slow down." Why did I land between 2 trees? Because I was not meant to leave the planet at this time, and my guides and angels are working to protect me. The irony is that the only thing I could think of in that moment was spilled coffee. So, examination is essential. Why did this happen? Why am I not dead? Thank you, God, is the thought. Jane asks, "Is gratitude a big part of your life?" I say, I'm sorry to say that I really dislike that word. I dislike it because it's on every mug, pillow, cute little plaque, and painted rock from here to Australia. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. I dislike cliches in general because they lessen the impact of what the words mean. I imagine some fat cat globalist elitist behind the gratitude agenda pushing complacency on us instead of encouraging us to be all we can be. It sounds cynical, but I'm very aware of agendas. That does not mean I'm not highly, highly grateful, however, but that comes from me and not from a piece of crockery. Jane laughs. Okay, I get it. I totally agree. However, it does have a place as a valid tool in assisting people who are lower on the emotional ladder to climb up to a better feeling place. So, maybe gratitude is useful as long as one doesn't stay in gratitude and continues to reach for a higher vibrational way of being. I say, examine your life, examine every moment, and be thankful for the lesson. Thank God, thank the universe. Ask yourself, why did this happen? And don't forget to laugh. Radical karma. In looking for the reasons behind our experiences, we've got karmic life lessons being learned at every point. I took a big leap early on when I realized something radical. We could probably control the karma we experience. I asked my guides, straight up, what if I learned my lesson right there on the spot? Wouldn't that eliminate karma? So, in my youth, I started ascertaining the reasons behind my experiences and never stopped. I don't like creating karma, and I definitely don't like experiences that become increasingly difficult until you've received the message. The process of karma has my healthy respect, which is why I do everything I can to outwit it, reroute it, and evolve beyond it. Realizing this was a key moment in my life, a jailbreak of the mind. Another epiphany I had sometime later was about fear. I stopped fear within a day, done and over. No drama, just flip the switch. I'll explain that a bit further on. Back to using karma to your advantage. At the exact moment I was dictating this passage, I dropped my groceries and decimated 12.5 eggs, and my dented cans rolled down the driveway like rebellious runaways. Why did that happen? Maybe my guides were delaying me for some reason. Maybe I just missed getting hit by a car. So, thank you, universe. I am very appreciative that you just saved me from something, whatever it was. Maybe I was simply meant to learn that I am not supposed to be doing too many things at once. Or maybe the eggs were bad. I take that on board. Message received. Universal synchronicity. There are many stories of people wondering whether something is a coincidence or some form of sign. I don't believe in coincidences, period. As soon as you say you don't believe in coincidences, the whole grid shifts. Everything changes. Here's another overused axiom I dislike. Everything happens for a reason. Yet it's true. I've said it to my own kids 1,000,000 times. I even dislike my own voice saying it. Yet truth has a way of coming back around. What's another way of putting it? Universal synchronicity. There are reasons for everything, including things you can't see and haven't been taught to look for. Once you know there's an entire world beyond what we perceive, then you know there's also a whole lot of invisible traffic in motion. Angelic guides, spirit helpers, interplanetary beings, unseen alliances, multiversal nudges. Many are reaching out to you at this very moment, if you're unplugged enough to notice. Jane joins the conversation. A professor from Harvard School of Consciousness said maybe 20 years ago that if the Empire State Building represents everything that we know to exist, how much of the building do you think we are actually physically able to see? So students guessed, half of it, a quarter of it, etc. He answered that it was 1 grain of sand at the base of the entire building. That's what we physically can see versus what we know exists that we cannot see. I respond, I don't know how that professor could possibly reduce human knowledge down to 1 grain of sand because, in fact, he has no idea of what we don't know. Maybe it's 1/10 of a grain of sand that we perceive. What I can say is that there is a tremendous world around us in very close proximity that is constantly interacting with us. It's not about seeing ghosts or detecting whether your deceased grandfather is in the room. Rather, it's about understanding the moments of connection and delivery of information. These things expand once you recognize them. Their information is right at our fingertips. There's a couple of rules before getting there. First is to transform your thinking to accept that there are things we cannot see. Then moving forward, there's a sure-footedness in saying, yes, I can make mistakes. Jane adds, yes, we all make mistakes. I don't make as many mistakes as I did before my Dark Night of the Soul challenges. However, I strive to be as consciously aware of every move I make with dedication to come from love and not from fear. I answer, I feel that it's important to acknowledge the path of least resistance. I'm not saying to avoid challenges or to take no for an answer. Nonetheless, when you are hit with obstacle after obstacle, it's wise to take a step back and ask, okay, why isn't this working? What you're doing is probably not the best way forward. If it's clear sailing all the way through and you're in the flow of giving and receiving, it's marvelous. You're flowing in the stream. The energy is rising. You're inspired. You've got new doorways open and new ideas budding. You're feeling great. That's how you know the way is right. You're feeling your way through it. The Rebel's Compass. What if your soul came equipped with a precision guidance system? Always broadcasting, always calibrated to truth. It does. You just haven't been taught to listen. Emotions are not random. They're not too much. They're not a weakness. They're intel. Your emotions are the barometer of your soul, a sacred internal compass that lets you know, in real time, whether you're aligned with truth or entangled in illusion. This compass doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your resume. It doesn't care what your friends think. It doesn't care what your spiritual teacher, Instagram algorithm, or inner critic says. It feels the truth. When you're in alignment, when your choices, words, and direction harmonize with your deepest self, you feel it. There's a lightness, a quiet joy, a grounded clarity. That's your soul saying, yes, more of this. When you're not in alignment, your body knows before your brain catches up. There's anxiety, resistance, dullness, that quiet tug in your chest, that clench in your gut, that rising sense of dread when you're about to say yes to something that screams no inside. That's not fear, it's feedback. The system works if you don't override it, yet you have been trained to ignore it. From childhood, we're taught to override our inner compass. We're told to be polite instead of honest, to be agreeable instead of authentic, to put others first, even when it betrays our own truth. We're told our feelings are inconvenient, dramatic, untrustworthy. As a result, we tune our innermost guidance out. We hand the wheel to logic, social rules, external authorities. Before we know it, we're off course, saying yes when we mean no, staying when we need to go, playing small when our soul is screaming to expand. Now, here's the truth. Turning back into your inner compass is one of the most radical acts of rebellion you can take, because it means you no longer need permission. You no longer ask others to confirm what you already know. You move from internal authority, not external validation. You say, I don't need proof. I feel it. Or, this path might not make sense to others, but it lights me up. Or, that deal looks good on paper, but something feels off, and that's enough. Or, I'm not waiting for permission to trust myself. This is the compass that doesn't point north, it points true. Rebellion starts in the silence. Start simple. Next time you're about to make a decision, small or large, ask, how does this feel in my body? Expansive or constrictive? Light or heavy? Alive or dull? Like truth or like strategy? Then trust the answer. Even if you don't act on it immediately, acknowledge it. That's how you recalibrate. Over time, your barometer gets louder, clearer, and faster. It becomes second nature. You'll no longer ask others to read your map. You'll be reading energy in real time. You'll be walking in sync with your own internal terrain, and nothing is more magnetic than that. The bottom line, emotion is direction. When your inner compass says yes, lean in. When it says no, listen. That subtle tug of misalignment you feel, that's not weakness. That's the warning light before the storm. The rebel within you isn't impulsive. She's attuned. She knows the truth, not because she thinks it, because she feels it. The chains of ego. Let's clarify something further. Self-esteem is not ego. They might look similar on the surface, but they come from entirely different places. One sets you free, the other keeps you chained. Self-esteem is the quiet, powerful, grounded sense that you are enough, right here, right now, no applause necessary. Ego is the loud, restless voice inside your head that needs more validation, more status, more people to think you're winning, even if you're falling apart inside. Self-esteem is built from truth, inner truth. It comes from knowing your gifts, honoring your growth, recognizing your value even when no one is clapping. Thank you for listening to this excerpt. Now, what if changing your reality doesn't require years of work, but a single, precise shift in perception? In the next chapter, you'll learn how to change that perception fast.